Welcome back to the channel where we read the books you pretend to have read so you can sound smart at dinner parties. Today we are diving into Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, do me a solid and smash that like button and subscribe. It feeds the algorithm and frankly, it validates my existence. Also, drop a comment below telling me what task you are currently procrastinating on while listening to this. I read all of them. All right. Let's talk about your life. If I had to guess, I would say you are tired. Not just, I need a nap tired, but deep down in your soul tired. You feel busy but not productive. You are constantly in motion, but you are not actually going anywhere. You are like a hamster on a wheel, except the wheel is made of unread emails, and the hamster is addicted to caffeine. You feel stretched too thin, like scraping a tiny bit of butter over a giant piece of toast. If that sounds like you, then congratulations, you are a non-essentialist. You are suffering from the undisciplined pursuit of more. You say yes to everything because you are terrified of missing out or upsetting someone. And the result is that you are mediocre at a million things instead of amazing at the few things that actually matter. This book is the antidote. Essentialism isn't a productivity hack. It is not about getting more done in less time. It is about getting only the right things done. It is about regaining control of your own choices so you are not constantly reacting to everyone else's agenda. So grab a coffee or a kale smoothie or whatever fuels your engine, and let's break down how to stop being a busy idiot and start being an essentialist. The first major lesson is realizing that almost everything is noise. We grow up being told that everything is important. You have to get good grades and play sports and volunteer and learn to code and bake sourdough bread and maintain a flawless Instagram presence. We treat life like an all-you-can-eat buffet, where we have to try a little bit of everything or we're wasting our money. But here's the truth. Most of the food at the buffet is stale garbage. The essentialist looks at the buffet and says, I'm only going to eat the lobster and the chocolate cake. Everything else is a distraction. McKeown argues that the non-essentialist thinks almost everything is essential. They view opportunities as equal. The essentialist understands that almost everything is non-essential. They distinguish the vital few from the trivial many. Think of it like your closet. You probably have shirts in there you haven't worn since 2014, but you keep them because you think, well, what if I get invited to a neon-themed party from the mid-2000s? That's the mindset of the non-essentialist. You are clogging up your space with junk just in case. The essentialist burns the neon shirt and wears the one perfectly tailored suit that makes them look like James Bond. You have to shift your mindset from I have to do this to I choose to do this. When you surrender your right to choose, you give others permission to run your life. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. The second lesson is about the trade-off. We live in a world that tells us we can have it all. We can have the high-powered career and the perfect family life and six-pack abs and a social life that rivals a Kardashian. But that is a lie, a big, fat marketing lie. You cannot have it all, and you certainly cannot have it all at the same time. Every choice has a trade-off. When you say yes to one thing, you are automatically saying no to something else. If you say yes to working late on Friday, you are saying no to happy hour with your friends. If you say yes to helping your neighbor move a couch, you are saying no to your lower back health. The non-essentialist ignores trade-offs. They try to do both and end up doing a terrible job at everything. They are the person texting under the dinner table. They're physically present but mentally absent. The essentialist embraces the trade-off. They ask themselves, what problem do I want to solve? They realize that by choosing the one thing they must do, they are deliberately choosing not to do the other things, and they're okay with that. Think of it like a video game character. You have a limited number of skill points. You can't max out strength, magic, stealth, and charisma all at once. If you try, you end up with a character who is mediocre at everything and dies in the first level. You have to dump your points into the stats that matter for your build. You have to specialize. You have to be okay with having zero magic if it means your strength is at level 100. The third lesson is what the author calls the 90% rule. This is a tool to help you make decisions because, let's face it, we're terrible at making decisions. We are wishy-washy. We say maybe when we mean no. Here's how it works. When you're evaluating an option, think about the single most important criterion for that decision. Then, give the option a score between 0 and 100. If you rate it anything lower than 90%, then change the rating to 0 and reject it. This sounds extreme because it is, but it saves you from the trap of the 7s and 8s. 7s and 8s are dangerous. They're good enough to make you consider them, but not good enough to actually matter. A 7 is that second date where the person was nice, but they chewed with their mouth open and talked about their ex for 40 minutes. You shouldn't go on a third date just because it wasn't a total disaster. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Apply this to your wardrobe. Apply this to the projects you take on at work. Apply this to the social events you attend. If you look at an invitation and think, well, I guess I could go, it's a 0. If you look at it and think, I absolutely cannot miss this, it's a 90 or above. This filters out the noise so fast it'll make your head spin. It stops you from clogging your life with lukewarm commitments. The fourth lesson involves the art of the graceful no. This is the hardest part for most people. We are socially conditioned to be people pleasers. We think saying no makes us look rude or unhelpful or lazy. So we say yes to the bake sale and the committee meeting and the extra project. But McKeown reminds us that a clear no can be more graceful than a vague or non-committal yes. When you say yes to something you don't actually have time for, you eventually end up flaking or doing a bad job, which annoys people way more than a simple no up front would have. You need to separate the decision from the relationship. Denying the request is not the same as denying the person. You can love your friend dearly and still refuse to help them move that piano. Here's a practical tip from the book. Use the pause. When someone asks you to do something, do not answer immediately. Count to 3. Or say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. This buys you time to think. Is this a 90% opportunity, or this is just guilt talking? Think of your time like your bank account. If someone walked up to you and asked you for $500, you wouldn't just hand it over because you didn't want to be rude. You would guard that money. But we hand out hours of our time like it's monopoly money. Stop it. Be stingy with your time so you can be generous with it on the things that actually matter. The fifth lesson is about sleep and protecting the asset. In our hustle culture, we treat sleep like a weakness. We brag about how little we sleep. Oh, you got 6 hours? That must be nice. I've been running on 3 hours in a Red Bull since Tuesday. This is stupid. The best asset we have for making a contribution to the world is ourselves. If we underinvest in ourselves, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits, we damage the very tool we need to succeed. The non-essentialist thinks an hour less of sleep equals an hour more of productivity. The essentialist knows that 1 hour less of sleep equals several hours of lower quality work the next day. They know that sleep is when your brain cleans itself and processes information. Think of your brain like a smartphone. You know how when your battery is at 4%, the screen gets dim, apps start crashing, and you can't download anything? That's you on 4 hours of sleep. You're walking around in low power mode trying to run complex applications. It doesn't work. Charge the battery, protect the asset. The sixth lesson is the concept of cut your losses. We have all fallen victim to the sunk cost bias. This is the tendency to continue doing something just because we've already invested time, money, or effort into it. You keep reading a book you hate because you're on page 100. You stay in a relationship that's going nowhere because you've been together for 2 years. You keep working on a project that's clearly doomed because you spent all last week on it. The essentialist has the courage to admit a mistake and walk away. They ask themselves, if I wasn't already invested in this project, how much would I invest in it now to get into it? If the answer is nothing, then they drop it. It's like waiting for a bus. You've been waiting 20 minutes, you think surely it's coming soon, but if you knew for a fact the bus wasn't coming for another hour, would you keep standing there just because you already stood there for 20 minutes? No, you would walk or call an Uber. Don't throw good time after bad time. The seventh lesson is about routine and flow. Once you have identified the essential things and cut out the nonsense, you need to make execution effortless. The non-essentialist forces execution. They rely on willpower to get things done. But willpower is a finite resource, like the data on your phone plan. Once you use it up, you're throttled. The essentialist designs a routine that makes doing the right thing the default option. They build habits. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't have to have a deep internal debate every morning about whether or not to brush your teeth. You don't need a motivational speech to pick up the toothbrush. You just do it, because it's part of the routine. You want to apply that same level of automatic behavior to your most important work. If your goal is to write a book, don't decide every day when you're going to write. Decide once that you write every morning at 7 a.m. After a few weeks, you won't even think about it. You will just be in the chair typing. By making the essential activities a habit, you free up your brain space to focus on the work itself rather than the decision to work. Now, let's bring this all together. The life of an essentialist is a life of meaning. It is a life lived by design, not by default. It is about doing less, but better. I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but my boss will fire me if I say no, or my family will hate me if I don't show up to everything. And look, I get it. Transitioning to this lifestyle takes guts. It takes courage to go against the grain because society is pushing you toward more, more, more. But look at the alternative. The alternative is getting to the end of your life and realizing you lived someone else's to-do list. You spent your decades running around putting out fires that didn't matter, answering emails that changed nothing, and impressing people you don't even like. Essentialism is about ruthless editorial control of your life. Imagine your life is a movie. You are the editor. You have hours of footage, boring scenes, awkward dialogue, pointless subplots. If you leave it all in, the movie's going to be 10 hours long and unwatchable. You have to cut. You have to cut the scenes that don't move the plot forward. You have to leave only the scenes that make the story amazing. Start small. Pick one thing this week to say no to. Just one. Look at your calendar for next week and find that one meeting that is a total waste of time and cancel it. See how it feels. I bet it feels like freedom. Clean out your physical closet. Throw away the junk. Apply the 90% rule to your next purchase. Stop trying to be all things to all people. Be a sniper, not a machine gunner. The machine gunner sprays bullets everywhere and hits nothing. The sniper waits, calculates, and takes one perfect shot. Be the sniper of your own life. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stop running on that hamster wheel, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more recovering non-essentialists. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where we will probably talk about how to organize the chaos you just created by saying no to everyone. And seriously, leave a comment. Tell me one thing you're going to say no to this week. I want to see the liberation happening in the comment section. Until next time, keep it simple, do less, and